class at the local university. I've been doing it for years, and it's just a blast. It's business law, and everybody has to take it. You know the reason I do it? I love to teach, but really these kids are my farm league team. I'm looking for just one or two of the kids who want to go just not just agree with Jesus, but go do stuff. Take the next step. And I don't know what the next step for them is, but you can see it in somebody's eyes. Remember that time where you felt that? You just knew what was next for you. It was a little murky, but you just knew this was the time. There was a guy like that. He had that look in his eye, and his name was John. John was in the fourth row of the class, and after one of the classes was over, he asked me if I wanted to come over, and we actually sat by a fire like this, and as we were stirring the coals, we were kind of seeing how God was stirring his heart. He had this desire to go do the next thing, and I just told him, man, spin the globe. Like anywhere where God's people are, where the hurting are, I mean, that's a place to jump in, and I'll jump with you. Let's just do this thing. So we picked Uganda. Uganda is this country, if you followed what's happened, there's been this 25-year civil war. Between the Civil War and AIDS, you know what the average age for the entire country was at the time? 15 years old. Isn't that nuts? It's a nation of children. And I don't know all the steps, and Jesus doesn't lay out all the steps because this isn't a business trip he's inviting us on. He said, like, just follow me and we'll go do stuff. And that's the problem I have. As a matter of fact, the first time I went to Uganda, I went to a village, and as I was leaving the village, there's a couple kids running after the Jeep, right? So I waved to them, and now there's like 5 kids running. I'm waving a little faster. There's like 15 kids, so I get both hands going. And there's 30 kids running after the Jeep, and I leaned over to the driver and I said, what's the deal? And in the U.S., this means like hi, right? In Uganda, this means follow me. Isn't that great? And I think Jesus has been doing that to me. He said, Bob, follow me. And I keep waving to him, saying hi. And a guy like John just decided he didn't want to just wave at Jesus anymore. So we got to Uganda, and I don't know where to start, but I know that Jesus loves justice. He's nuts about kids. He doesn't seem to like lawyers like me very much, but he loves justice and he loves kids. And so we just started going to jails. We started finding kids. If you're a dad in Uganda and you don't want some guy's son to hang out with your daughter, you accuse him of defilement. And that day he goes to prison. Is that crazy? And 3 years later, he's still sitting in that prison, never having stepped foot in a courtroom. And I was thinking, this is nuts. These kids need to have access to justice like everybody else. So we started trying cases. We brought the first 100 cases to trial of these juveniles that were in these jails, and we dropped off 98 kids at home with all the charges resolved. It wrecked my career because all I wanted to do is do that. And John just said, like, let's go start a school. And so we did. And we didn't just start it in the capital. We went to northern Uganda. It's the epicenter of the Civil War. On the one hand, the Lord's Resistance Army, and on the other hand, the Ugandan military. And what's nuts about this is these two sides each wore the same uniform. Is that crazy? The only cars going up in the north at the time were these UN cars, and they were all bulletproof. We had a Tercel, and we just went as fast as we could. There would be checkpoints, and everybody had machine guns, and we just blew by all of them, because if you stop, it's going to be a real problem. So we got to Gulu in the north, and then even started going north from there, and we said, what if we start a school? So we got the word out to hundreds of thousands of young Ugandans that a school was coming in. We were going to call it the Restore Leadership Academy. And tuition was free. You could just come. And when opening day came, we were so excited. We couldn't wait to see how many kids showed up. I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 kids. You know how many kids that showed up? 4. It was terrific. We weren't bummed. We were too busy chest bumping each other. We've got a school. Pretty soon we had 9 kids, then 19, then 90. And John called me up one day and said there's 2 students who are walking like 7 kilometers each way to get to school every day. And he wondered if there's any way we could just have 2 bunks at the school to put them up in. And I said, no way, man. I do not want to have a boarding school. Oprah had started hers. Things had gone wonky. I just didn't want that. And so I just kept saying no. And he said, but Bob, I just need 2 bunks. I don't know if he did this Jedi thing or what, but pretty soon I found myself just saying, okay, John, 2 bunks, but that's it. It's a couple of years later. You know how many kids are at our school? 310. You know how many are in bunk beds? 310. And you know, we've been calling John 2 Bunk John ever since, because that's the way people who aren't just waving at Jesus anymore, people that just connect and say, there's just gotta be more we can do. They just they defy the rules. They just say, no, I'm gonna jump the tracks. I'm not gonna do what's typical anymore. I'm not gonna think small. I'm gonna think big. This school has students that take a national exam. There's actually 13 subjects that they test every year. Physics, chemistry, English. I mean, it's a rigorous exam. And we were thinking with these kids that had been former child soldiers, how many of them would have a shot at passing? I don't know, like 1 or 2 maybe would pass and the rest would fail. You know, we got the test results back. Every single one passed. In fact, this Restore Leadership Academy is the #1 school in all of Northern Uganda. It's crazy, and you know why? A guy named 2 Bunk John, a guy sitting in row 4 in a classroom that just said, I just want to take the next step. I just want to do something audacious, and then I'm not going to be limited in my love. I'm going to love like I'm made of this stuff. There's a kid named Obama, and Obama came to us the day after his parents were dragged from the hut they were living in and burned alive in front of him. Can you imagine? I mean, what would that be like for me or for you to have like that unfold in front of us? But that didn't stop Obama. And in fact, he's a lot like 2 Bunk in that way. Because Obama went through our school, and you know who the valedictorian of our school was this year? Obama. You know where Obama's going? He's going to law school. You know where 2 Bunk John is? He's going to law school too. Isn't that mind-blowing? Why does God do that stuff? You know why? Because he wants to blow our minds. He wants to blow our minds with how good he is. How about like his ideas for us are so huge. And what we need to do is just take the next step. So what's your next step? What's your next big idea? Something you've been thinking about. What's your 2 Bunk move? Where you've said like, if I could just do this thing, we'd be off. And I'm just saying like, could we just go do that? I got a call from a publisher and they said, would you write a book? I said, I don't know, will you build a school? And they said, how big's the school? I said, 310 child soldiers and 40 teachers. And they said, big school? I said, big book, right? And so this was the caper. We said, let's just give all the money to the school. We'll go build a whole school for these kids. And we did. You know, we got to the last page of this book, and I was thinking about how Jesus got more available as time went by, and I was kind of getting less available. And I thought, what if I put my cell phone number on the last page of the book? And they thought I was nuts. And so we said, well, now we have to. You guys, there's a couple 100,000 people that have my cell phone number. Isn't that terrific? I get 50 calls a day. It's great. I can't get anything done because I don't send anybody to voicemail. What if we're the ones that just aren't efficient with our love anymore? Right? I mean, we keep telling people you can talk to God anytime, anywhere, about anything. And we keep screening our calls. What if Jesus started screening mine? Have you ever gotten one of those calls that's like a message that's 4 minutes and 30 seconds long, and you're like, dude, get to the point. If Jesus started screening my calls, he'd realize, man, there's no point. I just wanted to talk. What if we're like that? We just say, man, we're just available. What if we're really inefficient with our love? And our goal is to be more and more inefficient as time goes by. I stood with 2 Bunk John. We looked out over 50 acres, and we pointed at what could be perhaps the launching point of the next generation of leaders for Uganda. And the Restore Leadership Academy now is in the north, and kids are emerging from this academy. They're going into politics, they're going to law school. There's 25 kids that are in the universities right now. You know why? Because you became part of this. We just had this big idea. We'll write a book, we'll do something terrific, we'll meet guys like 2 Bunk. We're all part of it. We're all co-conspirators. And that's this thing that Jesus invites us to. He doesn't invite us to an organization. He didn't have one, and we don't want to have one either. We just want to be part of this like movement of people that say, we want to know more about God. We don't want to just wave to Jesus. We want to follow him. And following him means taking the next step. So what's yours? What's your next step? What's your two-pronged idea? And what's the next step to get you there? Man, if you need some help figuring it out, give me a call. You know I'll answer.